for de informasjon har du noe markeder mellom bilen og
Hey everyone, it's Sam, and welcome back to the 911 Nonsense podcast. To stay in the loop, learn about upcoming guests, and join in the conversations with the Noon community, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hey, if you like what you hear in this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to us. Dennis, an 18 Delta Special Forces medic, nurse, and host of the Prolonged Field Care podcast, shares the realities of life in austere environments and combat zones. From a devastating pediatric call to battlefield medicine in Afghanistan, he opens up about the ethical, emotional, and clinical weight of care under fire and what we can all learn from it. A decade into teaching and podcasting, Dennis continues to shape the future of tactical medicine. Let's get started. All right, Dennis, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining me. You've got some pretty cool stuff for us today. Can I go ahead and get an intro?
Sure. My name's Dennis. I am a 18 Delta Special Forces medical sergeant and an RN, and I have been doing this a really long time. And I teach uh, special operations medics and international students. So lots of experience, I guess.
That's so cool. You said that you were a medic and an RN. What had you move into the RN position?
So I had been a medic for, quite a long time. I was thinking, hey, I needed another skill on top of this. There's not lots of room for somebody that has that particular skill set. And so I wanted to kind of advance myself in some way. I had thought about the PA route. I had thought about the MD route, but when it comes to just being able to move just about anywhere, um, nurses, it's wide open. The entire hospital is wide open, and in like advanced practice, as far as nurse practitioner or CRNA, I was leaning more towards CRNA. Those options are always available as well, and so that was kind of the idea behind it. Secondary intent is at that time, prolonged field care was just kind of starting. Uh, GWAT, uh, we're looking at roughly 2011, 2012, so we had a long ways to go yet. And I kind of realized, which it seems obvious, like every war starts with a few people going in. Every war ends with a few people coming back out.
Mm-hmm.
And when the military starts rolling back numbers, they bring their toys with them, generally, anyway. But so I knew that support for the special operations is going to start dwindling. If that support starts to dwindle, that means you're going to be holding on to somebody a lot longer than you were previously. And so how do I convey to my students? How do I learn for myself? How exactly do you do that? And if you look at any hospital on the planet, who's taking care of people 24/7 is the nursing staff.
Yeah, no, it's a very true story. Would you say that having both of those titles helps you in your current position?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, they're not mutually exclusive, even though you talk to a doctor or you talk to a nurse and both of them think that their role is the only role. Um, but they're just cohesive and to the point where it's just good medicine in general.
That's basically what it comes down to in any practice, right?
Mhm.
Whether you're a medic, a nurse, MD, like you said, it really just depends on your skill level. So you said that you are a special forces medic.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you guys do?
Lots and lots. So obviously, classically, you're going to think combat medicine, like TRIC, March type things. We're also trained in like basic surgery. So like wound debridements, amputation, stuff like that. We're trained in anesthesia, trained in dentistry, veterinary, pediatric, obstetric, labs, clinical, like essentially the gamut of things that you possibly could run into. Um, we have at least a understanding of it.
Yeah, I did see that you have a fairly wide scope of practice, and that's where you kind of struggle with a little bit is that very broad scope of practice. Um, are you guys also the ones that go out and like do the standbys on the president? Is that kind of special forces?
I mean, it would, I mean, I've never done that detail. So, it could be, it
Yeah,
could be.
that's pretty cool. That's some cool stuff. How did you get into that?
So, it started, um, after 9/11. I left engineering school and I joined the Army as an infantryman. And so my first deployment in Afghanistan, during a firefight, one of the uh, guys in our company was wounded. It was like a GSW through the arm, and I put a bandage on it. And it was super basic, but for whatever reason, that kind of sparked the fire. And from that moment on, I knew one, I wanted to leave the infantry because that was crazy. And I wanted to join special forces, and I wanted to join special forces as a medic, which um, is not great odds because it is a very long, very demanding course that has a very high attrition rate. So having next to zero medical training beforehand, the odds were not with me.
So how long did you wait until you were able to get into the special forces as a medic?
As a medic. So, kind of the process is you go to selection. So, that was at the time roughly 3 weeks. Okay. And that's when they try and figure out, like, is this guy even worth the time and money to even start teaching? And so, they weed out the people who want it and the people who don't. And then you begin training. And that training pipeline for me was roughly 2 years long. 1 year of that is just the medic training, and it is essentially you're binging and purging medical information. And if you don't pass, then you don't go on. They had lots of people. And so, just as an example, my class, when I started the medic course, was roughly 100, and by the end there was roughly 26 left.
Holy smokes. That is a big difference.
Yeah, then obviously they have recycles, or like they'll push you back to a phase, let you restart it if they think you're salvageable. But if they don't, they just kick you out, and that's it.
That's crazy. So then it was another year before you were able to get into the special forces.
Yeah, so let's see, uh that spring, that first spring after my first deployment, I returned home. By that roughly that fall, early fall, I was at selection, and 3 weeks later they said, "Okay, you're worth seeing again." And I think I started the course around that next spring.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for how long now?
So I started the course in 2005, early 2005. I graduated summer of 2007, and I've been doing it since.
That's super cool, dude.
Yeah.
So you had said that you were working as an engineering student. Is that
Yeah.
correct? What was your
Yeah.
initial goal?
Um, well, I had thought I was going to do mechanical engineering. So I went to Michigan Tech University, and roughly around 9/11, when that happened, I realized I really didn't want to do math anymore. And I thought, just the idea of going into the military and doing the patriotic thing, that sounded much better than having to sit in a classroom and calculate things. Um, so yeah, I just decided to up and leave.
That's awesome. And do you mind if I ask how old you were at that time?
I was 22, 23.
Okay, so you're pretty young. Any family in the medical side, or is that just you just fell in love with it and you decided to go with it?
Yeah. There is nobody really in my immediate family. There's nobody medical. I have a couple of cousins that I think were nurses or techs or things like that, but none on my side are medical anything.
That's crazy. Any military?
Yeah, my father was in Vietnam, so that was, I'm sure, some aspect of it in my decision to join the military. But he absolutely was not super happy when I joined in the onset of a war.
I'm sure he wasn't. Did he outright like express that to you, or was that
Oh
just
yeah,
kind of a yeah, he did.
yeah, yes, absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely. But and in the end, I was just like, this is what I have to do, and he respected that. I'm sure my parents were just petrified of what was going to happen, but ultimately they respected my decision and were very supportive afterwards. But that initial kind of fear of their young son going off, they were not super happy about that.
oh, I'm sure. Or were you an only child?
No, I have an older sister.
Oh, okay. Your poor parents.
Yeah, but that kind of reminds me, my first deployment. So we got to where we were going, and it was a place called Shkin, Afghanistan, and so we get there, you kind of unpack, get where you're going to sleep, stuff like that. And I had a chance to call home. And so I had like 10, 15-minute phone calls with my parents, throughout the deployment. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna call, let them know that I'm kind of settled in and everything's great. And so I call them, I tell them all these good things, like, yep, it's hot, but we have beds, there's food, etc. Everything is great. Little did I know, Time Life magazine was going to publish an article labeled "The Worst Place on Earth" was Shkin, Afghanistan at that moment in time. So,
Oh no.
so I guess they saw through it.
Yeah. So, like whatever. Did you, in your time while you were serving in the military, after you became an EMT or a medic at that time, because it's a combat medic, correct?
Yeah.
I don't think
Yep.
you go through EMT, right? It
Oh
just
yeah.
like,
We
oh, do
got
you?
so we get at that time we got our basic EMT basic, and that was so we could do ride-alongs on our rotations. Currently, they're getting their paramedic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get your EMT basic and then you can progress to medic or
Now that was kind of en route. Their main,
okay.
their their uh, their absolutely their main focus is combat medicine, and they'll slide in EMT things along the way, and then they gave us like a 2 week refresher. I guess you would call it a refresher. It was more of like, this is when they ask you EMT questions on this test, don't answer these 12 things that we told you to do. The answer is this, you know?
Yeah,
So it's more of like a test orientation. You take your EMT basic test, and I think well, for me, it would be the middle of the course, but before our first medical rotation. Um, and so we're able to do ride alongs and things like that.
that's awesome. And then when you take your tests, right? Because I know we've had quite a few combat medics that come in and end up serving as like an EMT basic or an
Mhm.
intermediate. So you test at a basic level, right? Is that an NREMT certification or is that a state
No, that's NREMT.
for basic? And then
Yep.
for combat medic, is it also an NREMT or is it
No,
a
that's
certification? Okay.
it's a certification through the military. It's they call it ATP, Advanced Tactical uh, Paramedic. Outside of the military, that like nobody knows what that means. But that's all special operations medics that come through or get graded by that curriculum, because there's a couple of sites that do it. Then they earn their ATP.
Okay, that's neat. That's really cool. I've seen quite a few medics come out of the military and get a little frustrated because they end up having to practice as a basic or an intermediate
Yeah,
instead of a paramedic. So I've seen that frustration. I'm wondering if there's a way that we could bridge that gap, whether it's like
yeah,
a modified paramedic class that's only like 3 or 6 months or something to be able
yeah,
to get them that certification, but
yeah.
definitely
And
something worth looking
they have
into.
accelerated paramedic programs, like for I'm guessing they were designed for uh, at least the special operations. I'm guessing that conventional medics could do the same thing, conventional side medics, but in order and essentially it's kind of the same idea. Like we're going to prep you for the test, um, kind of brush up on areas that I don't really focus on that much, like cardiology. It's not a big demand when your community that you're serving is 20 to 35, you
Sure.
know? So, yes, I have done my ACLS, and yes, I've done codes and had some weird issues from time to time. But would I say that's my bread and butter? Like, no, that is not.
Which is pretty atypical for a medic. So that's interesting. That's really cool. I think it's something worth doing a little more follow-up on. You said
Yeah.
that you also do dental stuff. What are you
Yeah.
guys trained in for dental?
So we can extractions. That's a big one, especially when you're overseas. Um, just like the water quality is not that great.
Hmm.
Hygiene is not always that great, and so their teeth get fractures. They get cavities. They start to rot, and so a lot of it is just extractions. But we can do like some basic cavity fillings and things like that. Like we don't do cleanings or anything like that. We
No.
don't do braces or anything like that. But I can help alleviate some of your pain. If you need something beyond me, you're going to have to go somewhere else.
Have you pulled any teeth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
I couldn't imagine I mean, I guess I could. It wouldn't be that different than some of the stuff we do, like finger thoracotomy, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So yanking a tooth probably isn't that bad.
No, it's not at all.
No.
Because we do the blocks just like the dentist does. And then it's essentially just with pliers, not electrical pliers, like the dental pliers, right?
Yeah.
But
Whatever you have,
same,
right?
you just put pressure one side, then the other side, then the other side, and you go back and forth until it pops right out,
That's crazy.
or
I
or
didn't
it
know that you
breaks.
guys could do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in your time serving as a medic or EMT, did you ever have any particularly bad or impactful moments while you were there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, as a medic, especially during that time, I don't know how you would get through without having some kind of experience. But one of the experiences that definitely stuck with me for a long time was so in that particular area we were at, it's not uncommon that they shoot rockets at us, right? And so they don't use like the conventional, like the real, I don't know, I'll say it the right way to shoot a rocket. Like they have an actual launcher with an actual sight and they shoot the rocket, right? Well, they don't do that because it's like ridiculously heavy. They have a great big mountain to go up. And as soon as they would launch it, our counter barrage would destroy it. So they don't do that. What they do is build up a ramp out of rocks and a piece of wood, and they slide the rocket on it, essentially just like a bottle rocket launcher, and they set a timer and then they run away. So if you could imagine, the accuracy of this wooden ramp with the rocket sitting on it is not super great. So this particular case, rocket goes off and it completely and utterly misses our base by half mile. Like it's ridiculously how bad they missed it. However, they did happen to hit a playground.
Oh,
And in that playground, which because the Americans were in the vicinity and providing protection, had a bunch of kids in it, which when the Taliban were there, nobody is playing outside.
no.
So it killed like instantly half dozen children. One child lived that I know of, and his older brother, and older brother is like 12, and younger, the patient is 6, and that 12-year-old brother carried his younger brother to the American base. Um, the gate guards called that, hey, we have a casualty in front, and we don't know what to do, right? So I go running down there. The gate guard is holding this child. I grab the child and I start running to the clinic. I can feel his body tensing up and like straightening out while I'm running. We get into the clinic. This is an FST, forward surgical team. They get him on the table, they intubate, and what's happening is he's displaying Cushing's triad. His respiratory rate is going up, it's going down, and he goes apneic, and it goes up, and then comes down, and he goes apneic, and he is posturing, and there is essentially nothing that anybody can do. But this child is still alive. So we call for evacuation, which at the time uh, they wouldn't, they're not going to fly a helicopter into this area. One, it's dangerous. There's rockets slinging around. Two, we didn't cause the problem. The enemy caused the problem, and it's a local person. So they decided that they're not going to evacuate. So now we're stuck with this child. Nobody is going to come help, and we don't have any abilities to treat. And so the decision was made, like, we're not going to anymore. Like, give the child back to the family. And so we had to turn around, and by that time the father of the child is standing there next to his, I'm guessing, oldest boy, is the 12-year-old boy who is covered in blood from carrying his younger brother. And I had to tell them, I'm very sorry that there's nothing more we can do. You know, here's your child back. And that was it. And they never said a word. They never yelled at us. They never did anything. They just took the child and left. And that was very difficult because at least in that point in my career, it was never okay in training or real life. It was never okay to not have the answer that would fix the problem. And so, because we did not fix the problem and the child would eventually die, that stuck with me as a failure. And I think now, having talked to neurosurgeons and I've talked to intensivists and just providers in general, there was literally nothing anybody could have done uh, anywhere. Had it happened outside of a neurointensive care, maybe they would have been able to fix it. Maybe, but that's not the case. We were thousands of miles from anybody that had the ability to fix it and no ability to get him there. So the result is inevitable. But that ultimately helped. But from the time it happened till that moment when I finally just let go, um, yeah, I thought about him a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a tough decision that has to be made, and a tougher situation when you're having to hand that child back. Was he decorticate posturing or decerebrate posturing?
So as I was running up, he's decorticate. He's like stretching out, you know, and then eventually he started to become decerebrate.
Okay. Yeah, and that the studies show that typically if they're in decerebrate posturing, the outcome's not going to be great in
Oh
high
yeah,
numbers of patients. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. And it's, I think, one thing to, read a study and be like, well, these people not going to make it anyway. It's a completely different story to have a person in front of you, let alone a child who should not have been dealing with this situation at all, uh, and still have to give up essentially.
Yeah, that's terrible. And I'm really, really sorry that you had to go through that. There's not a lot of, well, probably more than I would like to think of that situation or something similar happening that we just don't hear or talk about
Hmm.
in the medical field. You know what I mean? Because we talk so much about how we're here to save people, right? And
Yeah,
sometimes we're not afforded that opportunity.
yeah, absolutely. And nobody, I mean, it's just a part of life, right? People are born and people die. That's just a natural course of life. As a medical provider, and I'm guessing I'm not that different from any other medical provider, you train to win, and and essentially that's the way we look at it. Is um, you know, even I don't know about your career, however, I'm willing to bet you're much freer to talk about your successes. Like, oh, I saved that dude. I got that IV, I got that airway, I did the thing, and man, we turned it around. He got to hospital, things worked out. We are much uh, less likely to talk about it didn't work. I did the things, and it still didn't add up to a win. And so that's much harder for people to do. But um, I think that's something we kind of have to do, because the more people talk about the times it didn't work, or um, situations where, like, God forbid, you actually made a mistake, which is completely human to do. We keep it inside, and it's like a dirty little secret. And now you have, I don't know how many medical providers are in just the United States, but several thousand dirty little secrets that we keep to ourselves. And those are the things that ultimately eat us up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I really like the way that you put that, that it's a almost like a dirty little secret. And when you're saying it's not a win, ultimately the way that people feel about it is that it is a failure.
Hmm.
And I'm glad to see that in more current trainings that we're training paramedics and EMTs that if the person, passes, it's not necessarily their fault because we're not going to get
Hmm.
to save all of them. So it's not necessarily a win or a fail. It just, like you said, natural course, it's the way it's going to be. There's nothing that we could have done to change that outcome.
Yeah.
We train so hard with you need to know this, this, and this is what's going to make a difference, and this is what can save somebody. But there's so many times where we do everything right and that person still doesn't live.
Yeah. Or even you have a bad outcome. Like, you could do literally everything perfectly, and they never wake up from their coma.
Yeah.
Um, they are, or even, and to be honest, this is another thing that I've thought about is, what if I had one, we brought this child back, and forever his family has to feed him.
Yeah. And now he's like
Like,
a chronic vegetative state, right?
yeah. Um, what an enormous burden in a completely and utterly impoverished nation. You have another mouth to feed that does nothing to help the family move forward. Like they are never going to work, that's for sure. And they're just going to slowly be a burden on everybody.
Right. Yeah. Or even just a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
Because even just a few weeks, whether he passes from sepsis
Mm-hmm.
down down the
Yeah.
road, that is a yeah, I agree. There's a lot in medicine right now where we're trying to do everything to save the person, and it doesn't matter what state they come out of,
Right.
which is kind of difficult to fight with, especially when you're taking care of that 90-year-old Mima who
Mm-hmm.
had a DNR and now family is saying, no, we don't honor that DNR. You need to do everything you can. Well, Mima's got a great heart, so she's going to live in a coma probably for
Yeah.
another 3, 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It reminds me, uh, so I was on so we did 2 medical rotations for a month in our training. And the second rotation, um, I was at I was in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and they had a patient on whatever floor, um, who essentially like his abdomen was huge, and they had done a laparotomy, and essentially had a I don't know if you know what a Bogota bag is.
No.
Oh, so essentially they did a laparotomy and they sewed plastic over the wound to allow the abdomen to room to expand. Okay, because otherwise, like he would have died from abdominal compartment syndrome, right?
Sure.
And that's probably what he was dying from. Well, they call a code blue, right? And so I run up there. I'm in the emergency department. I like jump up like 2 or 3 floors. Um, code blue rooms are easy to find. They're the one with all the crowd around it. And
Yeah.
so I like I slip through the crowd of watchers, and there is a nurse standing there, and she's doing chest compressions, and it's just like, and so my lack of experience, I'm like, oh, you must be really tired. Would you like me to take over? And she said, yes, absolutely. And so I got lined up on the patient, and I pushed with my all of my might, and turned out it was significant because I could hear all his ribs break, and his end tidal climbed from 7 to in the 30s. I'm going to work.
You're
Like
cranking.
I'm cranking on it, and he came back, and so I'm feeling good about myself. I leave after the code was over, right? And go back to ER and like high fiving, like, I did it, I did it. Um, and essentially the same thing happened the next day, and we brought him back. And the next day was Sunday, and I had off, and eventually he died. Um, and so I gave that family 2 days to finally say goodbye. That part was the win, but it got me thinking maybe that nurse knew a lot more than I did, and she was trying to do the right thing while letting him pass.
Do you like really think that? Or
Um, potentially,
potentially?
potentially.
Like it definitely could be an
I
option
mean,
and
I
not
don't
just
know. I don't know this person from anybody else, and I never like stopped her in the hallway. It was like, were you screwing up on purpose? Like, um, but it makes me think that nurse probably had worked with that patient for a long time. And they probably talked about that patient every day, twice a day, and nothing is getting better. And they probably talked to the family. Nothing is getting better. This is going to end badly. You might want to start saying your goodbyes. And then he went into cardiac arrest. And, I jumped in and I saved the day. But did I, or did I just break an old man's ribs and make him stay on this earth another 48 hours? You know, I don't
yeah.
know. I think about that stuff sometimes.
I don't think you can be in this field and not think about that stuff sometimes, you know what I mean? It's really hard. But then if you question it too much, like you almost just don't ever want to do CPR.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Especially when
Yeah.
you're out on like in the field or even in the hospital, right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
had a GSW to the head, obvious brain matter. Well, of course, he's still going to have a pulse, right? Because nothing's affecting his heart. He's pretty
Yep.
young, but there's brain matter pouring out of both sides, as we're working him and we're giving him fluids and we're giving him blood.
Mm-hmm.
The prognosis is not good, but we still work those people. We still take them up to OR. We still put them in the ICU. We still keep their heart ticking. And for what?
Right. Right. And I'm not suggesting like, hey, like I'm not suggesting anybody like give me the power to make the
No,
final
not at all.
decision on anybody. And I don't think anybody should be forced, whether that be EMS or, I mean, there's a great big potential in the military that it would be somebody like me that has to make the call. But ideally, nobody is if given the option to confer with others. Um, yeah, they should definitely have that opportunity to talk to somebody and be like, what is the outcome? What are we going to do? And in the meantime, like we're doing everything that we possibly can until the family is notified. It's been discussed with the family, like, hey, this is not going to be good. At best, his heart will be beating, and with the machine, he'll be breathing, but it's not going to get any better than that. Is that what he would like to live like that? And have that discussion with the family, because I think, let's just say, maybe you or I made the decision like, I read a study and outcome in this situation is not good. Um, yeah, let's just call it. Maybe that's not what they would want.
Sure. No, that totally makes sense. Definitely having somebody else to make those decisions is super helpful, especially when you're in the
Yeah,
hospital, right? Like, yeah, I'm not responsible for this.
yeah, yeah. You're gonna put that weight on me.
Yeah.
You're the doctor. You've been here. You've been doing this education for a decade. I have a whole year of medical training. I probably would defer to what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So with your time in, have you had any, or can you tell me about a more positive, impactful moment that you might have had?
Yeah. And I don't even know if it was like my great medical skill that did anything or not. But we did a mission, and the helicopters are coming in to come pick us up, which is down in this valley. And we knew this was going to happen, but the idea was like one helicopter would land, some people would get on, and then it would pick up, and then it would start orbiting. And then while that was orbiting, another helicopter would land in. So it's landing in series. Instead, they all landed at the same time.
Oh no.
So nobody was able to watch what was happening. And so the entire valley like opened up, and we had rockets and machine gun fire, and like it was not good, right? So my radio is just lighting up, and they're just saying like get on a helicopter. And so I jump in the back of one of the Blackhawks. So if you imagine I'm facing forward, the front of the helicopter is to my front, the tail is to my back, um, essentially wilderness out to my right hand side. So I sat down, and I'm kind of like with my hands, like it makes people run faster when you do this, but um, I'm trying to get people in, and I'm trying to watch to see if there's any enemy that are much closer, right? And so I realized like I'm right-handed, so I would normally shoot this way, which this is helicopter. The bad guys are that way. So I decided to stand up and I spun around and I'm sitting now in the opposite direction where I'm facing the tail. The front is to my back, and now open is out to my left so I can shoot, right? And, I'm still going like this. But people get in, and my teammate sits in the seat that I was just sitting in, right? And the helicopter takes off. And as we're flying out, I hear this sound. It's like I don't have anything metallic next to me, but I hear this on the side of the helicopter, and one of those like sounded more like a liquid smack, and then it just continued down. And so I'm engaging with the machine gun, and my teammate stands up and he says, "I've been shot." And so he sits down. The helicopter now is starting to do like invasive maneuvering. And so I'm reaching across and I rip open his pants, and it was just like a Monty Python movie where the blood just like splashes me in the face. And he's been shot. It's gone through one leg, from, let's say, his right leg, um, all the way through, hit his testicles, and then hit the other leg. Happened to be low enough that I could put a tourniquet on it. And so I'm getting the tourniquet on, and he starts like bobbing like this, like he's getting ready to pass out. And people are standing on my aid bag, like chaos is happening in the back of this helicopter. One of
As
my
you're being flipped around and
yeah,
sideways and
yeah. And so my other teammate on the other side of the helicopter, um, so there is essentially a wall where the people are, and then on the other side is where the helicopter crew is, right? Well, our radios are not communicating with the helicopter because we're on a different frequencies. So he literally got out of the helicopter in flight, reached around and smacked the door gunner, um, to tell him like we now have casualties in the back, right? And so we land to the first place. Um, we get him inside, and tourniquets at that time were fairly new, right? And so the first thing the doctor there did was cut off my tourniquets. And as soon as he cut them off, can you imagine what would happen? Like he
Monty
started
Python
bleeding.
again.
Yeah, he started bleeding all over again. So I took out more tourniquets and I put them back on. And essentially, we got him like IV access and some pain meds, and we flew him to another, like a surgical unit, because like blood, pre-hospital blood was like not a thing at all. It was definitely like two large bore IVs, like full send on normal saline, and
Kool-Aid.
he'll
Yep.
be fine. He'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so anyway, like we get him there. He goes into surgery, comes out of surgery. There happens to be a plane on the tarmac that's getting ready to fly to Germany. So they send somebody out, stop the plane. They load him into the plane. He flies to Germany, goes to surgery, comes out of surgery. There happens to be a plane going back to the States. They wave the plane down, load him on that. So in 36 hours, 48 hours, like he's back in the States, like from Afghanistan to the United States in a couple of days. And he's already gone through one, two, like three surgeries. So fast forward, um, we came back from Afghanistan early because of another teammate had passed away, and so we're there for his funeral. And and I know that he's gonna be there at the funeral, right? And so we're gonna meet up at this bar. And so um, I'm kind of running through my head, like I've never talked to one of my patients afterwards before. Like, are we gonna like shake hands? Are we gonna like high five? Like, are we gonna hug? Like, I'm just like wondering, like, how am I gonna do this and still be cool, right? Um, so I'm thinking about this, and I see him at the bar as we're walking in, and I'm walking towards him, he's walking towards me, and I start to like extend my hand, like I'm gonna like shake his hand, and he stops and he goes, "I've been wanting to tell you one thing." And so, I was like, "Okay, like, what do you want?" He's like, "You burnt the shit out of me with that brass you were shooting." And I was like, and the moment is now ruined.
Yeah, sometimes he probably thought about it too, you know. Are you guys still friends?
Yeah, we still talk every once in a while. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I got a little, it's a little off topic, but it's also not a little off topic. In the last year, I've seen two other people get shot through the testicles.
Hmm.
On a burn calculation scale, the testicles are
Yeah.
considered 1%
Yeah.
of
The
the
whole
whole body
genitalia.
surface area.
Yeah.
That is nuts. Not nuts, but nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, some people are more equal than others, you know what I mean? So,
That is so true. Awesome. Thanks for sharing those stories. So you've started a podcast as
yeah,
well, correct? And
yes.
how long have you been rolling that podcast out and what is it about?
So, the Prolonged Field Care podcast, we've been going on almost a decade now. The Prolonged Field Care Working Group started in 2013, and the podcast itself started, maybe 2014-ish. And I took it over from the original guy. I think 2015 is when I started. What it's dedicated towards is essentially special operations, military, austere medical providers, and not. I mean, there are like a million medical podcasts out there, but we really specialize in like the austere kind of situations, and not like how do I make an IV out of bamboo? It's you don't have a lot of stuff. Like, how can you diagnose, treat rapidly in a very austere situation where you don't have lots of help and you don't have lots of resources, but you still need to do the job, you know? So that's pretty much what we focus on.
Did you take over this podcast because you thought it was cool or because you feel like genuinely passionate about this style of medicine?
Oh, I'm absolutely passionate about this style of medicine. I started teaching in 2010. So, even when I started, I had already been teaching like 5 years or so. And just as an instructor, as a teacher, just, kind of jonesing to, see that light bulb come on of like somebody who, just like when I started, knew absolutely nothing, and had all kinds of stupid ideas about what was the right thing to do. And, just get them to, understand the concept and like oh like now I get why this works, or my other idea was not going to work at all. But um, just watching that light bulb finally come on, um, is definitely the juice that you're looking for.
That's super awesome. And where can we find and get a hold of you?
So the Prolonged Field Care podcast, you can find that on our website, prolongedfieldcare.org. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's just about on any podcast platform you can think of. Um, we're there, and I just recorded today, podcast 240.
Oh my goodness, congratulations. That's a lot of
Thanks.
episodes. Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
yeah,
We're getting close to 100. I'm gonna have to do
yeah.
I'm gonna have to do the math because I don't know exactly how many we have, but we're real close to 100.
Nice.
Um, and I just want to give you the opportunity to talk about anything else you feel that we didn't talk about or to shout out anybody that you'd like to shout it out.
Well, I mean, you already gave me the opportunity to plug myself. But I mean, obviously, none of this is just me. Like, I'm just a voice. I try to bring on experts who actually know what to do, and then just, you know, ping all my dumb ideas off them, and eventually we come out to the truth, right?
Yeah.
Um, but this is, you know, I think podcasting is a great opportunity to just have a conversation without the formalities of like a lecture or all the pressure of like condensed content in a classroom. You just get to have a conversation, and I think this venue, this whatever you want to call it, is just a great opportunity and to pass along information.
I agree. And you have access to an Instagram, right? You have an Instagram page?
Yeah, yeah. Prolonged Field Care Collective. I also I started it a long time ago. I think it's just Prolonged Field Care Podcast. We on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. I have 7 followers, so we'll see.
That's
We'll
awesome.
see if that grows at all. You know, but just any way to kind of influence other people, to guide them to take a look at us and see if this kind of fits what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And Dennis, thank you so much for coming out today and hanging out with us on the Noon podcast. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's been very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.
Yep, I hope you have a good day, Dennis.
I sure will. All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Night.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show and want to show your support, be sure to check out the Noon merch store on Bonfire. Find the link in the description below. Also, if you have any guest suggestions or if you're interested in being a guest on Noon yourself, visit the website at www.samspursuit.com to get in touch.